Hello, Lynn.
How are you?
I'm doing
I'm
good.
on Sharon Lee's Table Talk. Sharon Gaines Lee, the author now. She's the author of the book TeTe, the Colored Calico Cat.
Yes, Calico Cat.
Calico Cat. That's
Yes,
great.
yes.
Beautiful, very colorful. I'm just so amazed and so proud of you for doing this book. I'm just amazed by this book. It's wonderful.
You are,
So
Lynn? What
are you
amazes you? What I know the question are from me, but what amazed you from it about it?
the reasoning for it? The
Okay.
reason what is to do it in a form of an animal
Yeah.
to help understand how to love themselves.
Yeah.
That's what I'm excited about this book because that's very, very important.
hmm You know what's so interesting, Lynn, and I know you have questions for me, and I'm probably taking one of them now, but I'm just going to say this. What stays paramount in my mind is the scripture that God says he causes all things to work together for the good. It took me, writing this book took me to a different dimension, I have to say, because I'm not a person who liked animals at all, and especially not cats. I didn't dislike them to harm them. It's just that I just didn't want to take the time with them. And I seen them, overtake people's houses and they did not understand people like cats. I mean, the whole thing, but what I just seen them represented wrong. And I just thought, they'll just overtake your house. And I didn't know that you could train them and teach them, and they didn't have to jump up on your cupboards and but anyway, so I fell in love with TeTe. I'll just start there and I'll let you ask the question. I fell in love with TeTe, and out of that came this book. Out of that came this book. This is probably your first question, isn't it?
What? Why did you write the book?
Yeah, why did I
Why?
write the book? Yeah. I was in Lynn. Originally, you live near Pittsburgh. I went to college in upstate Pennsylvania, Indiana, Pennsylvania, and I met my husband. I worked there. I taught preschool for 16 years, sixth grade for 1 year before I got married, and then had my son, and then life went on from there. But I mean, often I was in an area, a rural area, where it was predominantly white people. And so I had to, and the church that I went to was predominantly white people. I don't have a problem with that. But I realized as I roll back a little bit and look, I positioned myself to, and I'm going to say it, to be accepted more. I positioned myself in a position to be more acceptable. And then after a while, I learned that, you know what it is, and I have to be who I am. Because at the church that I went to, Lynn, and you and I talked about this before, they would often say God doesn't see color. And
Mm.
so, and I embraced that for a time because it makes sense. Okay, God doesn't see color because we all want to love one another, and we don't want to, I understand where they were sort of coming from. But as time went on, I started to dislike that because when I thought about this, I thought, wait a minute, God doesn't see color. So that either makes him bipolar, or, what is this with God doesn't see color? When you look at the sky, you see a blue sky, you see black and white cows eating green grass, you have a yellow sun. So God does see color. It would be better for us to say, what is it? What did God create? Because everything he did, he does for a purpose. So it would be a better thing to say as humans, what is our purpose, and why did God create us? Because once we're started, and in the book, once people purchase the book, there's a page in it that talks about a pot of stew. And in that pot of stew, you have carrots, you have, I was going to say lettuce, that's a salad, huh? No, but in the pot of stew, you have carrots, you have potatoes, you have beef, you have onions, you have different components that make up stew. And so it wouldn't be stew if it was all carrots or all peas or all of those, if it was just one note. But it was the collection of those vegetables made it a pot of stew. And so it would be, and you don't want to bite into a potato and the potato tastes like a carrot, or a carrot tastes like beef. You want everything to represent itself correctly. And
I
so
love
such is life, such is life. I mean, we come into this and we have interaction with different cultures, with different colors with different sizes, different shapes, we have a combination. And so the worst thing we can do is try to interchange or step back or be something that God didn't create us to be, because God created us on purpose for a purpose, which is actually the top, which helped motivate me in what I was doing. But when I lived in Philadelphia, Lynn, after coming, we sold our house in upstate Pennsylvania, and then we moved to Philadelphia, which is where I'm originally from. And we were in Philadelphia for 4 years. Well, we lived on one of the main thoroughfares on City Line Avenue in Philadelphia, which is, it's a pretty pricey area. And so the last month that we were there, Lynn, we ended up, now there was a golf course across from where I lived. And from that golf course, according to the manager, that's where mice came into my house. They were field mice. Lynn, I don't care if they're field mice, ghetto mice. I don't care if they're suburban mice. To me, a mouse is a mouse. And so I was really irritated. And I used to say, I don't like mice. No, that is not completely the truth. The truth is I'm afraid of mice. And so I just thought, you know what? Well, we purchased our house and I knew we were moving to Atlanta. And so I said, I'll be out of this and I'll just deal with this. I just have a couple more weeks and then I'm out of here. And so we ended up coming to Atlanta, but we didn't close on our house for 2 weeks once we got here. So our stuff was in storage. And so while I was in storage, I don't know if it was storage or I don't know if they traveled from Philadelphia to Atlanta, but there were a few mice in the truck. And so one of the men who was moving our things, he said, Mrs. Lee, he said, you got mice in your truck. And I mean, Lynn, my heart just dropped because my mindset was so into moving out of that spot so I could be in another spot without the mice. And now you're telling me mice are here. So I said to Herbie, Herbie, we have to go to a shelter and get a cat. He thought I was joking because he knew how I felt about animals and especially cats. He was like, are you joking? I said, no, we do. I said, we have to go to a shelter and get a cat. Well, don't judge me, but this is what I did it for, right? He ended up taking me to the shelter to get the cat. And I thought, really, I just want the cat in the house, maybe for a couple of days, get rid of the mice, and then we'll take it back to the shelter and say, thank you very much. But then I find out I wind up really liking TeTe, really liking her. And so it was like, I'm almost ashamed, almost embarrassed because I so badgered people, maybe not directly, but indirectly, but you knew my vibes and how I felt about animals and especially cats. So this is what I did. I went on Facebook and I said, you know what? I need to apologize and I need to repent for all the people I was hypocritical with. And I taunted you concerning having animals and especially cats. I said, and I didn't let them know, Lynn, on Facebook that I had a cat until like a month in, because I thought I so anti-animals and people knew that's like almost shameful. So I ended up humbling myself in this whole thing. So as time went on and I ended up liking TeTe, and TeTe, if you know Calico cats, they're not one color, they're several colors. And so she has in her brown, she has in her black, and she has white and a little red. And so when I looked at her, I thought, you know what? And it was during the time of all this racial stuff was coming up. And I thought, you know what? This would be a great book. This would really be a great book. And you know why? Because she represents colors, the whole human race. And I remember growing up, my mother, and it was during the time when they called Black people colored people. And my mother used to say, when people used to say, the colored girl, my mother said, what color is she? Is she black? Is she brown? Is she what color? Red? What color? You're saying color, what, And so all of that name came out of why I put colored in it, because she is colored, as in she has all those colors in her. So that's where TeTe, the cat from the shelter, who I love, the color Calico. So that's where that came from. And then I decided, I said, you know what? And as I was doing these, I was doing every month at the time. Every month I was doing these table talks. You and I were involved in a couple of them. Table talks concerning racism. And on the panel from time to time were people that I really knew. And they were people who were fighting against racism and, doing what they had to do. But I also knew some of these people kind of intimately, and I knew that they didn't accept who they were. They didn't love who they were. So you're fighting for something, and but you don't love yourself. You're fighting for racism. And I thought, you know what, in our lifetime, racism is not going to ever be permanently eradicated, not even in the next lifetime. I mean, you're going to always have that spirit of racism where people want to elevate themselves above you. That's just the spirit of the world that's there. So I thought about, I said, if that is never completely eradicated, how do we live life well? How do we station ourselves? Do we wait for the world to change completely and then we can be happy concerning who we are? Or is it easier for us to adjust ourselves? So that's the next part of the book. So it was like,
Go back to your pot of stew. That analogy is awesome.
Yeah.
And it shows me that even though you said that, it makes all different vegetables makes a pot of stew.
Yeah.
All of us, white people, black people, or every race needs each other.
Yes.
It's a purpose. We have a purpose.
Yes.
We need each other.
Yes.
Just like you said, to being at vegetables, everything has to come together. And we have to get to the point where we know that no matter what race we are, we still need each other.
Yes.
And that's what I got out of your analogy.
Yes.
And that's
but we all bring something unique to the table. We really do. I mean, and we do ourselves a disservice if I come to the table trying to be white, or if a white person comes to the table trying to be black, or if an Asian person comes to the table trying to be Caucasian. I mean, we do ourselves a disservice because we all have something unique that God has placed in us as a culture that we can bring to the table. And once we put it in that pot of stew, it's really it's almost like an orchestra of music. It's just not one note. It's a whole collaboration of different tones and notes and levels, and it makes it beautiful if we accept who God divinely created us to be. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So, Lynn, you know what? Because I have a blog page on Facebook, and this is called Divinely Designed Women of Wisdom. And I love speaking into the lives of women, and I love women encouraging one another. But I thought, you know what? The younger we can get this into a child, the younger we can get into them, because you have all this bullying and you have all this different stuff going on. But bullies need an audience.
Right.
I mean, they're not bullying themselves. They're doing that because something is broken on the inside of them. And so if you have girls and boys too, because suicide is so high because of all of this stuff, it is important. I see that it's important, and for teaching school for 16 years, the importance of loving who you are, because the Bible says to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And you can't love your neighbor if you don't love yourself. You really can't.
A lot of people don't love themselves because a lot of people don't love their neighbors.
Right. Yeah. Right. So you can look at what they're projecting, but what they're projecting is who they are. The thing. Right. And so if we can put inside of a child to be bully proof, I call it, make them bully proof by knowing that God created them for a purpose, for a divine purpose, to succeed, spirit, soul, and body in life. If you can put that in a child at a young age and they grow up with this way of thinking, because I think it's not just enough, it's important. It's important for parents to embrace their kids and put things in them. And you can say to a child, oh, I love you, I love you, I love you. And that's true. My parents did that. That is so necessary. But if you can give them the device and the mechanism where they can speak their self-talk, not their parents' self-talk. Now that starts there. It starts there because parents plant seeds, but their self-talk is accurate. That they're sturdying themselves up against the negative. And so that's what this book is for. And you can see it behind me, TeTe, the color Calico. And then I have it in my hand, and it comes in hardback and softback. We'll talk about that later. But I think it is so important for kids to have this on the inside of them.
When you wrote the book, did you have a certain age group? Did you just decide I'm going to do it just for, a certain age group? Or did you decide after you wrote the book, did you realize that it can touch every age group?
And that is a good question. And that's exactly really the sequence of how it happened. Because originally I was thinking of preschoolers because I was so accustomed to dealing with preschoolers. I thought that was, so important. And from being a writer on Amazon, they want to know who you want to target. So you have to give them an age. I couldn't say from 1 to 100. You had to give them an age group. And I think one of my administrators, she has on there from 7 to 12. And the reason why it's so vast, because if I could get away with saying from birth, because I used to read to my son when he could do nothing but look at the pictures and he didn't know what he was doing, what he was looking at. He would just follow because I was flipping the page and he didn't know what I was saying. And so I read to him when he couldn't read, but he was also a reader before he entered kindergarten. So those things are important, but I think between 5, 6, 7, between 7 and 12 is a good age. The 5-year-olds, some 5-year-olds can read this book, and you have some maybe older brothers and sisters who are 15, 12, 13, 14, 15, who will read the book to their younger siblings. And in reading it, they're being involved with the book as well. Because, even though I have an age group on it on Amazon.com, I think it's for everybody. I even think when parents read it, because we have adults who don't know who they are. And so if you're putting something in your kids, you want to put something in your kids that you have. You don't want to project something, because kids can detect a phony in a hot second. They can. Right. Kids can detect that. So you want to have you as a parent, and I think as a parent reading this, and I thought about this when I was writing, and I was like, when parents read this to their kids, they're going to be reading it to them, but it's also going to be imparted to them as well.
I say 0 to 100. Grandparents will read the book and will bless them.
Yes.
Because they're reading. And a mother who's pregnant, that's why I said 0 to 100.
Yeah.
Mother that reads books to their kids in their womb.
Right.
So that's 0 right there, and to her in the age. So it's going to bless everybody.
Yes.
It's going to. What was your process of writing the book?
My process? In what way? How do you mean, Lynn?
Like the steps that you did take to write the book.
Well, this was interesting because, Lynn, I was right in the middle of another book. And it wasn't a children's book. And I still have that on hold right now, because in my arsenal, I have cookbooks that I started that I want to finish. And I also had a book, and it was called Navigating Within the Church, because of something, that's a whole nother story. But in the midst of it, the Lord laid in my heart to lay that down and to pick this up. And so when I picked it up, it was almost easy, Lynn. I say easy now. Getting the book published, from you being a publisher, that it's not overnight. It's not like you snap your finger and it's done. But the process was easy, since God ordained me to do this, He put the people around me to motivate me, to help me, to do what I needed to do. But the process in this was me having the thought, the process started actually with that mouse situation. And so when I got here, it was like, wow. And in the midst of all this racism talk, it was like, you know what? Now is the time to write this book for children, to sturdy them up. And so I begin to dream, and I begin to, have these divine dreams, really, and seeing kids, because I grew up in an era where I saw bullies, and bullies still exist. It goes on and on and on. And I thought, what can you do in a child to sturdy them up? And so along this process of the mice and all of that thing, because that's what I said when God says He causes all things to work together for the good. And so I would have never wrote a book about TeTe, the color Calico, if I didn't have mice. Really? I wouldn't have a book about cats, And so in that, it just one thing led to another. And it was like, okay, let me write it. How can I make it clear? How can I make it simple? I want it to be interesting. I want it to be fun. I want it to be colorful, but I want the main point to be the main point. Because within our race, we have racism, we have colorism within our race. So it's always something. So that means that we have to be sturdy on the inside, because you can't change everybody. You can't change 1,000 people, but you can change yourself. Your self-talk can change, you know.
Amen.
So yeah.
I like the fact that TeTe's all colors. So
Yeah.
he's not one race of color. He's all colors.
Right.
And that blesses the people that are biracial.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's people that are biracial, because he's all color. He's a mixture. And
Yes.
biracial people are a mixture. So it blesses them just to say, this cat is different colors and I got different than me. So it's like a wonderful thing. It's two ways of seeing that.
Right.
You can just definitely focus on the kids that are biracial. They're like, oh my God, this cat is different colors. I'm different. I got different races in me. And so there's different ways that book is definitely going to bless people. Oh my God, I'm excited about this.
Yes.
What legacy do you want to leave?
I mean, I want to leave the legacy I want to leave. I want people, I want kids mainly. I want them to be sturdy, and I want them to be set in knowing who they are. And it's okay to love themselves, because you can have, there's an unclean love and there's a clean love. There's a love that it's all about me and you want to step on everybody. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a clean love where you're loving yourself. You see, if I don't love myself, it's impossible for me to love somebody else. I mean, there's a friend of mine who I went to school with, and I was raised up in a household where my parents taught me. I mean, they weren't perfect parents, but they were very solid in me loving myself.
Right.
And, and we had one side of our family was extremely light skinned. And then we had on my father's side, and then we had the rest of us. And so it was always that kind of battle, that kind of friction, but I never saw it in my household. I never. And my mother was brown skinned like me, my father was, but I never heard them say, don't love them because of the color of their skin, or don't. I never saw that. And I remember one time my brother, who I was close to my brother, I'm still close to my brother, and there was this girl that we had gone somewhere, and she was a pretty girl. She was older. My brother's 5 years older than me. And so, and because I so loved my brother, I didn't want him to love anybody else, because I was his baby sister. I just wanted him to love me. And so I just saw that he saw that this girl was really attractive and she was beautiful, and she was. And so on the way, and we were in New York at the time, and originally, and like I said earlier, I'm originally from Philadelphia. So on the way home, I said to my mother in the back of the car, because my brother, I could see he was just googly eyes over her. And I said, Mom, am I as pretty as she is? And my mother turned around. She said, baby, you are beautiful too. It's a different way. And my brother sat back there like, okay, that's a good answer, Mom. I mean, this girl that I like, she's really cute. This is my little sister with plaits going one way and one going the other way. But
this woman.
Say this again.
You can't compare my sister with this woman that I'm loving right now.
Yes. And my mother said, baby, you are, it's a different kind of beauty. The way she worded it, she didn't want to say, anything negative to me, but it was always in you. When she would correct me with something gently like that, it was always in, you're good enough. You're fine. You're fine. You're beautiful. I mean, you are fine. You're smart. I mean, and those are the kind of things we have to put into our kids so they're growing up not easily being offended or bullied or manipulated. We have to do that, because I knew when I dated a guy, and you and I talked about this before, I'm sure, but when I dated guys growing up, and they would say to me early on, I'm 13, 14, 15 years old dating, and if a guy told me, oh, I really love you, that was always a no, girl. It was next. Because it was like, how can you telling me you love me mean something different from my father telling me he loves me? When my father tells me he's loved me, he's not looking to have sex with me.
Like, I just met you. How you love me?
Exactly. And you're 13, 14, 15 years old. You don't know a thing about love. At least I knew that. So I'm just saying all of those things are sturdy up kids to say, wait a minute. I need to abort this, or I need to bring this in. And so they need to know quickly how to do it. And so that's what this book is, because TeTe, another part of the book, she's in the lunchroom and she's looking for somebody to sit down because it's new for her. And so you have these kids and their other colors and they're like, "Go, TeTe, get out of here. We don't want to have anything to do with you." And they're laughing at her because she has all these colors on her. And so it affects her. It affects her like it would affect a child. And so the whole process, her mother is teaching her what's going on and how to handle it so that she's not affected by it to the point of losing it or wanting to hurt herself. And so that's you.
You know, TeTe's a cat, so she can hurt somebody else.
Yeah.
And I like that it gives a child confidence.
Yes.
Because sometimes when we have confidence, it's like we think we're better. We see it.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody should be taught to have confidence. It's not it's feeling good about yourself. Because they, when you feel good about yourself and you walk with your head up, other women think you cute. And then children don't want to think like that because they've seen other kids get teased for being confident. But you're giving a foundation in your book, a firm foundation that is okay to be confident.
Right.
It's okay think yourself as beautiful.
Yes.
And that is a blessing.
Yes. Yes. I agree.
Do you have any other characters in this book besides TeTe?
Yeah, there are. You know what I have in the book, because I have my grandson, my 2 grandsons are in the book, and also my 3 of my nieces and nephews are in the book. They're in the band. And there's a couple of the characters that are in the lunchroom, different settings, they're in there. And because I wanted them, I wanted to represent them well in the book. And I want it to be, even though it's a fun book about cats, it's representing real people and how we're affected by things,
There are people in there too.
Say this again.
There's people, not just animals in there, right?
Right, exactly.
So there's a variety of characters in your book.
Yes. Yeah, well, actually, the human people is my son, who is the chef in the lunchroom, and then me, and I think is one other human person, but mainly the characters are the bus driver. My husband is the bus driver, So but it's mainly it's cat.
So you're going to do a color book too, right? You're doing
yes, in the process. Yes, my illustrator is almost done. She's doing a activity and a coloring book. Yeah.
So is it going to be a TeTe 2, 3, 4? Is there going to be a new, series of TeTe
yes,
books?
There's going to be a series. That's a good question. Thank you for asking that, Lynn. Yes, there's going to be a series of TeTe books. And the next book we're doing, I don't want to say right now, but we have a couple in our arsenal that we're doing concerning this. And one of them, I will say, one of the books that we're doing, I will say this, the next book that we're doing is concerning renal disease and explaining the whole process. It's explaining the whole process, because TeTe finds out that her father has renal disease at Christmas. Pardon me?
That's a deep book.
Yeah.
His disease. Kids have to deal with that just as much as we do.
Yes.
So that is excellent.
Yes. And it keeps stuff simple and informative, but you want it to be simple. You don't want it to be something hard that you have to pick yourself up off the floor after you're done reading it. But it's a fun, energetic, informative books. And I want to do a collection. Like TeTe is going to end up going to Paris because she's a chef. I mean, it's going to be a collection of TeTe books.
Wow, that's great. That is great.
Yes. And I am looking forward to, because I want this book to be nationally and internationally. And I'm in the midst of right now of getting it into international schools and stores, because I think it's important for everybody, not just for Black people, not just for white people. It's good for everybody to know who they are and to accept it so that they can excel.
Right. And accept themselves, right?
Yes.
So you're doing things in schools? Are you reading for schools? And What are you doing for the schools right now?
Yes, right now we're working on my team is working on getting it into schools. I want it into schools all across America. And this is for anybody listening in. If you want it in your school district, go to SharonGainesLee.com and leave me a message, because I want it in schools, because I think this will stop so much of the crap that has been going on forever with kids. Like I said earlier with the bullying, a bully needs an audience. If they don't have the audience, then they can't bully, because they're not going to bully themselves. And if you lose your power by not having people to bully, then it downplays it and it eliminates the whole process. So yes, so we're in the midst of getting it in schools, and it can go in schools, it can go in churches. It's not a churchy book. It can be everywhere. It can be in church, it can be in school, it can be in libraries. It's for everybody.
So does TeTe have a website, and does TeTe have a Facebook page?
Yes, TeTe. Yes.
Oh, now, she's a celebrity.
Yes. And you were the one who recommended it to me about getting TeTe her own page, that was very good. TeTe has a Facebook page, TeTe the Color Calico. You can look, and she has her own page, and she has on the page, she has her one page in the book she has on a raincoat. And so on her page, you see her raincoat that she has on, her real raincoat. And she has one of those jackets. What you call those puffy jackets? I never wear them, because I don't never want anything that's going to make me 2 sizes larger. But she has one of those, a red jacket on, and just in the book, different outfits that she have on in the book she has on her website. So you have to go to her website and check her out. And also, again, on my website is SharonGainesLee.com, and you can read some testimonials of students I had throughout the years and how I impacted their lives. And it was shocking to hear some of the way some of the kids thought. And most of the kids, I think there was one African-American girl, and that's my goddaughter, Olivia, who's a character in the book. She wrote something. But the other kids are not African-American, and to see how the Lord used me to affect their lives, it just brought me to tears. So it just encourages me to, I'm on the right track.
Right. And girl, you're going to affect a lot of people's lives with this book.
Yes.
You're going
Thank
to
you, Lynn.
Encouragement. It, just like you said, make them rooted and grounded to know who they are. Children of all ages, parents of all ages, grandparents. It's going, just like you said, it's going to go worldwide. You just got to believe it without doubting, no matter what happens, because It's like a wind. It goes up and down, but you got to keep going. Believing in your story.
Yes.
Yes. You believe in your story and you love your story. There's nothing anybody else can say about it. You have to love your work and your art. That's an art. You have to love it. Mm-hmm. And now Sharon Gaines, the author. Sharon Lee Gaines, the author. That's a blessing.
I know. I'm still wrapping my brain around it. And it was so interesting because I'm a part of this international, and I said this earlier, organization. I think you and I were talking about it before we were on air, this international. And so to hear them say Sharon Gaines, author, it's like, okay, it's me. They're talking about me, the author, the writer. That's me. I guess that is me. And at this time was the right time for me to write, because I had a lot of papers, a lot of stuff that I could put together to make a book. But it was like that fear of, because from writing, you're exposing yourself.
You're out there. Anybody can say and do anything they want to you. You're out there.
Yes.
You're vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Yes. You
gotta be strong.
Mm-hmm.
So who is your illustrator?
My illustrator, her name is, and she's a good friend of mine, her name is Michelle Armbrest. And she is an excellent, once you see this book, she is an excellent illustrator, excellent. And we collaborated together on this. And sometimes we would talk in the middle of the night and change things and do things and switch things around. We worked perfectly together, I have to say. Sometimes we'd be mad at each other, say, let's talk tomorrow, as friends do. Not really mad, but just we would differ in opinions concerning stuff. But we would come back in it, and it was just wonderful, a wonderful collaboration between us. And the outcome is this. It's TeTe the Color Calico. I love it. She was almost in my head, almost like she could pull out stuff that that was in there. Like if I would say something, she could draw it and she could put it on paper. Now I can say stuff, and you're an artist as well. But I can say stuff. I'm not a draw. I can't draw. I mean, I could draw stick people. So what's in my head, putting it on paper in the art wouldn't work. But she beautifully manifested stuff that was in my head. I could just say something and she would have this whole picture of how it should be put on paper. And it was just beautiful. It was like, wow, this is divinely designed.
That's right. You're supposed to be together. You're supposed to work together. Are you going to work together on your next books?
Yes.
That's great. That's a blessing to have somebody that is so connected to you.
Yes.
That you, like a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
You think she can write what
Yes.
you write, so that's a blessing.
Yes.
To be one accord like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The viewers get your book.
Okay, say this again. You went out a little bit.
So where can the viewers get your book?
The viewers can get the book, Lynn. They could go to Sharon Lee, again, www.sharonlee.com, and that will link them into Amazon, and they can get the book at Amazon, Barnes & Noble. I mean, all the major portals, ebook, eBay, all the major book porters, they can go and pick up this book. And you can get it in hardback, softback, or like I said, ebook.
And it's going to be on the bottom of the you're going to put that on there so they can just push on it and go to it, the website. Yes.
Lynn, you asking me to do that? You know I don't know how to do that. Girl, on the bottom of this screen?
No, like at the bottom of it, when
you
put put that on there so they can just link to it real quick.
Okay.
Because when people look at it and they say, okay, I can get the book, if it's not there and they say I'll do it later,
they won't do it later.
They'll forget.
Yeah.
So if it's there, put it right on there, girl. Put it. So
I don't know how to do that.
Michelle does.
Yeah, Michelle does. She does. Absolutely. Yeah, Michelle.
But put it right on there because people to say, I'm going to get the book. And if it's right there, they'll push the link right onto the and be able to get it automatically. You got to do that. You got to
yes
push your art. That's a blessing. I'm so excited for you and I'm so proud of you, and I know you're going to do excellent.
Lynn, that is, you know how I feel about that coming from you, being an excellent writer. You know I love that.
Excited for you. You noticed that I just played that off right.
I am
excited for you. I am. Colors are beautiful, and I'm excited that you're going to do very well and go to bookstores, in the libraries, and everywhere. As soon as this pandemic goes away, you'll be able to do book signings and stuff.
Yes.
That too. So it's a blessing. Author Gaines Lee. Author Gaines Lee. Remember that name. Remember that name. These things, and she's also a chef.
Yes,
an excellent chef. So vote for her to be a chef. By the way, tell them so they can vote for you too. We might as well get all that in here.
Yes, favechef.com, and I'm Sharon Gaines, and you can vote for me every day so I can have a spread in the Bon Appetit magazine. There's a monetary payment for winning that as well, but which I'm grateful for that. I don't want to play that down. But I'm so excited about having a spread in the Bon Appetit magazine.
Oh my God, the magazine's wonderful. I used to get it all the time.
Yeah.
And if you go on her website or her Facebook page, you'll see all the food. Yeah. And you'll know that she deserves to be. She deserves to, because the food just makes your mouth water.
Okay.
All that. So get her book, get her coloring book or activity book. Remember her name. Go to TeTe's website and TeTe's page. Follow her, Sharon Gaines Lee. She's a blessing.
Thank you.
I give her like 5 thumbs up, 10 thumbs up. I don't have 10 thumbs, but I'm putting my hands up.
Yeah, right. I love you, Lynn.
I love you, girl. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we'll talk soon.
Okay.
Okay, love
Have
you, girl.